Now let's do our discussions. We have Chairman of the Peace Council in the studio, the Most Reverend Emmanuel Asante. And thanks for joining me, Prof.
Thank you.
All right. But more importantly, we know that you and I have been having these discussions each time it is an election year, etc. We'll have to delve into such subjects as well. But the National Peace Council, very interesting as it is,
yes,
you seem to have a regulation that seems to set you up as it is.
Oh, yeah.
What really does it entail and mandate you to do?
Okay. Thank you very much, Roland. I hold in my hands here the National Peace Council Act 2011. And with your permission, let me read out,
please,
so that people will know what it is. Because as I go around, a lot of people, I met an MP who said, oh, we should try to fight for this thing to become, a statutory body. And I said, it is already a statutory body. This is Act of Parliament of the Republic of Ghana entitled the National Peace Council Act 2011. An act established the National Peace Council to promote peace in the country and to provide for related purposes. Date of assent, 16th May 2011. Passed by Parliament and assented to by the President of the Republic of Ghana. National Peace Council. The establishment says this: there is established by this act a body to be known as National Peace Council. Object of the council is to facilitate and develop mechanisms for conflict prevention, management, resolution, and to build sustainable peace in the country. And then it lines up the functions of the council. To achieve this object, the council shall, 1, harmonize and coordinate conflict prevention, management, resolution, and build sustainable peace through networking and coordination, and many more.
Oh, very interesting as it is. For many people, they will say they only hear of the Peace Council when it's an election year. But of course, logically, as a media person, I know you've been involved in resolution of conflicts, etc., over the years as well.
No, it's interesting. I mean, and I'm glad that you, the media person, you're asking this question, because I mean, the media seem to take much interest in election issues than other issues. I hold in my hands here National Peace Council mapping conflicts in Ghana. This is a work that was done between the National Peace Council and the University of Cape Coast. And it has mapped out, conflicts in Ghana, real detailed, and, tagged areas, what are the key conflict, zones, and what bring about conflicts, and so on and so forth. And politics is not, really the number one. It's usually the resource conflicts, chieftaincy disputes, land issues, and all that. We did this work. It's also on the website. We have done this work for not just for ourselves, but for the various RISEX, for the regional House of Chiefs, National House of Chiefs, and for the stakeholders, so that at least they will study it carefully and fix their eyes, focus on those areas, so that you can preempt conflicts, because I mean, this is a detailed work. And
I'm just going through and I see various conflicts bordering on whether it's chieftaincy, skin, etc., land, regional conflicts, and election conflicts, and things like that. And all these have been zoned, so to speak, segmented into various parts of the country, regionalized. And it's as useful as it can be. It's
available. It's available.
So you go to the Legon bookshop, you can go one?
No, we're not selling this. I mean, this is not something for sale, but we've given it out to the various stakeholders. And as I said, it's on the website. I need to check the website.
But that's okay.
Yes.
But when it comes to the subject of elections, and we know that we just have to posit our discussions within the framework in which we are, would you say that, well, usually you need to have a plan, and so for this very election you have a plan?
Oh, yes. Roland, we started working towards 2016 election in July 2015, I must say, where we brought stakeholders. And by stakeholders, well, what are we talking about? We're talking about the security services. We're talking about the EC, we're talking about NCC, we even brought Shraj and all those people into a hotel. This was sponsored by UNDP because they have been our chief partners. And we jawed. The objective was to try to do a critical evaluation of 2012 and then say to ourselves, what did we do well that we need to enhance? What didn't we do well that we need to discard and put measures in place to serve these issues? And the police told us, they roll up, the plans that they have already indicated to you, and others also did that. Soon after that, we also called your people, the media, on the same platform to discuss a number of issues. And then we also invited the political parties' representatives to Koforidua, also to discuss these matters. This was all done in the year 2015 in preparation towards 2016. Now, for this year, we've rolled up a number of programs. We have already, in partnership with other peace, civil society organizations, we've already met with young people, the youth groups of the various political parties. We have also, in addition to that, rolled up programs that will take us to the various regions. You know that the National Peace Council is decentralized. When you and I were talking 2012, it was, not decentralized. So everything was centered here. Now all the regions have regional peace councils except Accra. And for the simple reason that the body is here, but Accra's one will soon be, even inaugurated. So we have regional peace councils dotted all over the place. And they have been involved in a number of, issues. The reports are then sent to us. At
the national,
national level in Accra.
4 years ago, when I spoke to you, it was an election year, 2012. It was even prior to the time that you were going to organize a peace pledge kind of event in Kumasi, etc.
With IDEC.
Yes, and then you were also trying to tell the political party and the various stakeholders that they needed to do things right. Would you say that for all the things that we talk about in that very interview in your office here in Accra, we've resolved them, they've not found themselves to be repeated this year or are likely not to be repeated this year?
Well. I mean, one of the things that everybody says is that we do not allow history to educate us in our country. Because let me tell you something. I was just going through some of the addresses that and statements that the Peace Council issued 2012, especially when we were doing the limited registration at that time. And let me tell you, some of the things that we said, I could easily just pull out that address today and just cross out 2012 and it will be valid. Because it seems to me that we do not learn from history, from our own mistakes. We were then talking about the problem with minors being passed about and being pushed about by the various political parties to be registered. We're talking about aliens, ineligible, people who were getting themselves into our register. We were warning about this bloated register and so on and so forth. Now, what did we see? Even with a limited register, as a teacher, I don't give them excellent, nor do I fail them. They've passed.
It's more like an average mark.
It's an average mark. But at least, having said that, you and I know the problems that we encountered. And some of these problems were caused by the very people who complain. Because, it depends upon, if you were talking to somebody from the National Democratic Congress, NDC, they will pass the buck on the NPP. You talk to somebody from the NPP, pass the buck on the NDC. But whether in this contest of passing the buck, something has happened. Children, minors, have been registered, which shouldn't have been the case. There was the complaint that people were bossing people around, people who should know that we are under the rule of law and therefore take the process to take action against such people. If you knew that somebody who had come shouldn't be there, all you needed to do was to fill a form arbitration committees had been set up to deal with it. People took the laws in some places, in some cases, into their hands, and they prosecuted their own laws.
Okay.
You know.
Now,
so we don't seem to have learned from the past.
Now let's get to the substantive. But I would want to, as a precursor, ask this. You as an individual, I've known you for a very long time.
Yes.
Head of the Methodist Church, because of the role you play at the Peace Council and the various roles you play in elections. Do you feel that sometimes your chances sometimes are taken against you and sometimes misinterpreted politically?
Of course. I mean, it is said in Akan that anybody who is trying to stand in between two people who are fighting is bound to receive blows from both sides. Let me tell you that three days ago, somebody called me and I was tagged as an MPP man because they said, look, if something happens if an MPP man does something, you don't say anything. But if it's NDC, you are quick to say something. It was in the morning. In the afternoon, I was tagged that I was NDC, and it was a similar thing. You know, sometimes we have been misunderstood. Sometimes people have not taken context into consideration. Sometimes people have assumed too much. They have expected that everything that is going on in Ghana will pass through. You know, the Peace Council would know what is going on, and therefore they say, where are they? What have they said? You know, and sometimes too, because it doesn't please somebody, they think that you should have said what they want you to say, and because you are not saying that, these things do happen. But you see, I am not perturbed by those things. I try to do soul searching. I say to myself, did I say something wrong? If I know that what I did was right, I would do that. And I tell you, a lot of the things that were done in 2012, if I should have the opportunity, if they should come again, I'll do the same thing. Okay.
And I believe some of the things are coming again. At the heart of the whole narrative for this very election is a subject or the controversy of the electoral register. And we know that, well, you were part of that very five eminent panel, which we're always espousing our narrations in the media, etc. Do you think that the subjects of validation or the subjects of, or the controversy of whether we need to have minors on the register, or if we had them, we have to remove them, and how we have to remove them, the processes by which the Electoral Commission is using is the best means, which is an interpretation of what you concluded in your report?
No, our submission made it clear that, you know, from the number of people who made submissions during the forum, and also after the forum, we also made them one-on-one, clearly indicated that the register as we had it then was bloated, and that something needed to be done to clean it, okay, to make it valid. We also, in the report, if you have studied it carefully, did analysis, and we did say that in the past we have done exhibition, but if we want to do what we have always done as usual, we may not be able to do the cleaning up that we all think that we need to do, because we've done that in the past and yet it has not yielded the results. And therefore, mechanism should be put in place to ensure effective cleansing of the whole thing. Now, some people are saying that they use the word validation. We never use the word validation. In fact, if I'm doing analysis, and at some point in the analysis, we did mention that after the election, the result should be validated after. What were we trying to say? We were trying to say that the reportage, you know, in terms of declaring the results, there must be ways and means of ensuring that proper things are being done before it goes out to the public, and that the Electoral Commission should not be under pressure to, you know, as it were, come out and say that this is the situation, but they should do proper validation before they come out. That was the word that was used in the analysis. Now, in terms of the recommendations, we never use any word validation there. All that we did say, and I have the report, and anybody who has read it must challenge it, did say that it is important, at least for us to have the right sort of document, because, I mean, electoral registration is key to the democratic, to the democracy that we are practicing.
It's good. Your organization is almost like the ombudsman, as if you're the buffer.
Yes.
Between what is the other side of the protagonist in this whole drama. Do you think that the Electoral Commission is playing its role well in your overall assessment up to now, to the expectation of what the Peace Council will say is the best, and so they should be given the benefit of the doubt? I
think so. You know, definitely, I mean, a lot of people might have difficulties, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, they have established what you call the IPAC. This is a baby of the Electoral Commission itself. And the purpose of the IPAC is to do consultation. I believe that is a potential. It's something that they must really use well for the sake of transparency and also seeking information and advice in respect of the things that will affect the various political parties. At some point, we even felt in our recommendation that IPAC should be institutionalized and should be given some kind of, if you like, statutory, standing, so that it will be incumbent on the Electoral Commission to discuss such matters. It will be good for the nation as a whole. On the whole, they're trying to do, what should be done. Definitely, you will not expect that everything that is going on will please everybody, and I would not mark them 100% in terms of what they have done. As human institutions, there have been times that maybe they've been lacking in terms of consultations and other things. For example, the ding-dong that seemed to be going on with respect to the limited registration and the students' body, I don't see why this thing should even go to Supreme Court, for the courts to even decide that. I would want to advise the Electoral Commission and say that, listen, call the students' body, discuss with them the difficulties that you have in doing what they have asked you to do, or not in doing that you cannot do what they are asking you to do. Jaw with them, so that you will be able to find solutions. In
that regard, have you called the Electoral Commission and posited this very position you have?
I don't want to declare it in public. I mean, sometimes you do quiet diplomacy. Okay? I have always said that some of these things are not meant to be discussed on air, but at least you do quiet
So
diplomacy.
far, how will you rate the Electoral Commission on a scale of 1 to 10?
That's very difficult. But because, I mean, up until now, one would say that I'll give them 7 out of 10.
That's a very good mark.
Yes, 7 out of 10.
I see.
Yeah.
What are your observations on the just ended limited registration exercise?
As I have said, the just ended registration exercise, I'm not going to give the Electoral Commission A for that. I will simply give them a B. And I'll give all the stakeholders, the security agencies, they did very well. I mean, the police in particular. But I think they could have done better, because in some other places, reports came in that, you had macho people, thuggery taking place, and the police seemed overwhelmed that they were not able to do much. Perhaps we need to learn from the downside of what has taken place and work on that in view of November elections. But so far, so good, apart from the fact that my heart goes out to my students in the universities.
So you would want the Electoral Commission to have a proper revisit on the subject of the students who are making complaints on the campuses?
I would wish that the Electoral Commission would not just write them off, but just sit down with them, listen, and do critical evaluation and see if there isn't something they could do.
The subject of the macho men and the conflicts, well, staggered, minute conflict situations that happen in the polling stations. It's also got to do with the political parties blaming each other, the MPP and NDC especially. What role do you think they need to play, or how circumspect do you think they need to be?
I think, as far as I'm concerned, you know, a lot of people have talked about this whole vigilante thing. It has come about because, as far as I'm concerned, there is some sense of mistrust, okay, in terms of the security system that we have in place. People do not really have full confidence that if you leave it with the security agencies, their interests will be protected. So they have seen the need to go for vigilante groups. But these vigilante groups can also be a source of problem for us, and they have been in the past. Snatching, you know, boxes in some places, we have known it in the past. Their presence itself scares off a good number of people. So how do we ensure vigilance without threatening the electoral system? That must be the challenge political parties must face. Where if you need, you know, for lack of trust and confidence in the system that we have, you think that you need to have people to ensure vigilance, how do you do it in such a way that you do not create problem for the electoral system? That should be the challenge political parties should sit down and consider. Again, political parties must understand that the nation is bigger than every political party. At the end of the day, what is it that we are looking for? You're vying for the mandate of the people to rule them, to rule the nation. And so it is the nation that matters more. And therefore, anything that we would do to place the nation in a kind of situation that will create violence and problem for us, the parties must take up responsibilities and ensure that these things do not happen. And when I use the word parties, I'm talking about the major parties, the NDC and the MPP, you know, and which they should stop passing the buck, you know, and also seeking to score points and equalization. This person did that, and so why not us? This person did that. Two wrongs doesn't make one right. I think we want to look up to potential leaders of this country to stand up and be counted, to stand up and say that, listen, even though we want power, we want the mandate of the people to develop this nation. Ghana must come first, and we must do all we can to ensure that there is peace and tranquility in the nation.
Since you like doing your consultations underground, behind the curtain, are you planning or have you commenced any kind of consultation with, well, even not the major political parties or the political parties?
I have already told you that way back in 2015 we started, and we are not going to stop this. This time we probably we have plans in the regions to meet with the political party leadership even in the regions. And then this will be culminated in an event similar to what happened in 2012. In fact, right now we are in touch with the Kofi Annan Foundation, and we want to do a major thing here in Accra in September involving all of them. It's in the
as a replica of the pledge, the peace pledge.
Exactly.
Conference.
And then, you know, the Rotary Club, for instance, is also committed to peace, and we want to have an event with them. A number of events have been lined up to address these issues that will involve our political leaders.
Earlier on, you talk about vigilante. There seemed to be some level of volatility, or maybe less elasticity, as far as the ability of the political parties to be receptive to criticism, and perhaps also the throwing of accusations, etc., from their political opponents.
Yes.
And so they are easily angered, and so tend to retaliate or reply.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
I think, as I have already said, two wrongs doesn't make one right. you know, if somebody in anger kills, you don't in anger dissect the body that's been killed, you know, the corpse. And therefore, it is always important for our political leaders. I've said we need to place, you know, what we're doing in context. Why are we in politics? What sort of Ghana are we looking for? At the end of the day, politics, for what end? Somebody gave a lecture at Gimpa recently, Nana, Professor Sifi Kondria, and his topic was electing what? What is it that we are really going for? You know, because at the end of the day, when we engage in politics, whether we are the people who are canvassing for position, we must know why we are asking for that. What is it? What is the package for me as a Ghanaian? Why should I vote for you? And if I vote for you, what does Ghana, not me as an individual, get? Okay, what is it? I think it is about time we begin to look at all these things. But then it boils down to our political culture. To be honest with you, our democracy is still young. Our political culture needs to mature.
It's still being nurtured.
Yes, it's still being nurtured. And we need to learn from our mistakes so that at some point when it is election, we can behave like it is time to read a budget. When the Minister of Finance is going to read the budget, people go about their normal businesses. I mean, a few people will be very much concerned about this. And you live in some other countries where elections are taking place. I've lived outside for a number of years. Sometimes you never even hear of anything going on. All you hear is that the elections are over and that so-and-so has been elected. I pray that a time will come when, with a matured political culture, we will be able to do that. The fact that any time election is around the corner, we should be sitting on what? Hot coals and all that. I mean, it's something that we need to really work towards and try to avoid.
Earlier on, we said that at the heart of all this is the controversy about the elections and the electoral register, so to speak. Over the last few months, the argument has been made about that if we have a national identification system, will help resolve this.
Yes.
What's the view of the Peace Council on this?
I'm sure that the Peace Council has not discussed this matter, but I'm sure that every member of the Peace Council, as I sit here as the current chairman of the National Peace Council, will go for that. You see, the problem that we have in our country is that if you say that there are people who are non-Ghanaians who are registering, look at the history of Ghana, okay? I traveled from here in my capacity as the presiding bishop at that time of the Methodist Church, touring the whole Ghana. You came to a place and your mobile phone is telling you that you are in La Côte d'Ivoire. I've been to a place where you just cross here and you are in La Côte d'Ivoire. They meet in the farms. One friend was telling me that his father's cocoa farm is on a hilly area. When he plucks the cocoa thing, it rolls to Ivory Coast. You know, the place where the cocoa rolls to is Ivory Coast area. And he was jokingly saying, so if we sell the cocoa there, have we smuggled it? You know, this was a joke. But that's the situation. We intermarriages and all that. Go to the Volta region, the border. Your uncle may be in Togo.
Actually, we have
yes.
large populations who have
do you know that Olympio is a Ghanaian?
Sure.
You know, and
the mother is a Ghanaian.
The mother is a Ghanaian. And the rule says here that if you have a grandfather, one of them, who is a Ghanaian, you are a Ghanaian. So it becomes very, very, very difficult. What do you call them? I still use this old term. Burkina Faso.
You want to say Upper Volta?
Yes, I'm an old person. Burkina Faso, go to Boku and those areas. Their relatives are there. Colonel Kabore here, his brother is the president of the, you know, I mean. So what are we talking about here? Until we have been able to work on our, what do you call, that card,
the national
identification system, where everybody has his own card that he will be able to show and say that I'm a Ghanaian, it becomes very, very difficult for us to address that issue. So I fully support that. And I pray that government will provide the resources and all that it takes for this national identification thing to go through. It will solve a lot of problems for us in our country in terms of our electoral register and in terms of who is a Ghanaian.
For every election, electioneering is important. And as a composite, are the messages that are perhaps trumpeted on the political platforms and very much so discussed on the public forums and on the media, etc. The messages that some of the political individuals or personalities or parties send out to their sectional groups when they tend to meet them sometimes are in bad taste. More recently is the one made by the former Transport Minister Jifatibo. Well, we all know that very statement. And if another that has also been criticized is that one by the vice presidential candidate of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. What would you say to the political, especially the two major parties, that when they go to meet their sectional sympathizers, so to speak, they have to speak well in terms of religion, in terms of regionality, in terms of ethnicity?
Roland, I've always talked about the politics of civility. Okay? We must be civil in our politicking. In other words, if I mount the political platform, don't exploit the ignorance of the people. You're assuming ignorance of the people, because I mean sometimes people think that they can exploit the ignorance of the people, play on them with these kinds of statements so that they could catch their vote. I have said that anybody who thinks that he must be able to catch vote on the basis of such propaganda has nothing to offer. Okay, it is important for us to go down there and tell the people, we're talking about the nation's economy, we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about frustration of young people. What is it that, if you put me in power, I would do? Bring it down to a certain level that the people will understand. I keep saying that if you go to tell people that we have spent trillions of money, what does that mean? But if you are able to tell them that if you line up those money, it will be like from Accra to Suhum, that's the length of it, they will catch the idea. Communicating to our people about the kinds of things that we would do, and also respecting other people's views as well. Contest of ideas is acceptable. I mean, somebody has said something, we debate it, but we think that his position will not be able to solve the problem. For these reasons, I think my position will be able to do this. And allow Ghanaians to exercise their minds and then say that, yes, we think that this person has what it takes to rule our country. Once we do that, we will be doing what I call the politics of civility. But if I have to mount, political platforms and play to the gallery and try to tickle the minds of people and talk about issues that do not put bread on the table, but rather incite people against one another, we're not doing the right things.
I have a story I've called from the net, and because I was told you'll be coming, I decided to do a bit of research. On the 13th of October 2012, you seem to have made some of likely statement like this. It was reported on Ghana Web that political party leaders need to be circumspect with what they say to their leaders and also to their supporters when they go on the campaign platforms. And I'm quoting this very piece from Ghana Web. But they don't seem to have listened, have they?
We will continue to hammer it, okay? Maybe they will take it. Maybe Ghanaians will catch it. For example, we're talking about that. We don't give up. A lot of the things that one is saying, I've already said those things. Sometimes the temptation is to say, let me be quiet, because we've already said it. You have had your bashing for even daring to say some of these things. But asemi edika wanabeka. We need somebody must speak. Somebody must tell us that, listen, we have only one country, that is Ghana. And let's not create a condition for the possibility of violence in our nation.
Well, we have Chairman of the Peace Council in the studio speaking to us on a number of issues concerning what the dialogue has been and will be with the various stakeholders as we all make sure that we sojourn into the election we're about to convene in early part of November. But what do you know about the Peace Council? This is what we did. We decided to go onto the street, ask ordinary people like us what we know about the Peace Council. We'll try to watch them, and then when we come back, we'll get one or two other comments from the most Reverend Professor Asante. And then we'll have a wrap-up on our discussions.
I know the Peace Council has been a group of people who are set apart to make sure that they set things amicably, especially during times when there is tension in the country. Most of the times they reduce tension, I think so. They set things, they set disputes. So
what do you make of the work of the Peace Council?
Over the years, they have been able to curb riots and conflicts. And to me, I expect that they keep doing the same. Because as you are heading towards election, you'd expect people to be moving about here and there. We just had our voters' ID registration, and then we saw a whole lot of cutlasses. So I think the Peace Council should be doing more than they are doing currently. They should increase the way they go about solving problems in the country.
For now, I would say they are doing well. But they need to do more, especially, since, especially this year, since it's the election years, there's a lot of tensions and stuff like that. So I think they could do more than this. They shouldn't be biased and stuff like that. I want them to come out and then, preach more about peace, not just something will happen before they will come in to say something, but they should really, you don't hear them much speaking about peace or doing peace deals, but unless maybe there's a agitation or there's things that are going wrong with in the political things in some of the offices that you hear of them. But to me, I think they should do more, come out, they should, you should hear of them more in the news, in the radios, especially this year as we are in the election years.
They are doing very well, because sometimes you can put all the structures in place. You are doing a very good work, but you need somebody that can give you the moral and the ethical support. So ethically and morally, they are supporting Ghanaians to do what is supposed to be done. So they are doing well.
What do you think they haven't done right over the years, and what should they be working on?
I think it's high time they brought together all the churches and then all organizations to ensure that the goal of this nation is achieved. Because it looks as if they are somehow autonomous, and then people also say that some of them are political, they side with other political nations. Certain political parties are not getting their support. So if they are being biased, I would advise them not to be biased. They should try as much as possible to be independent and then ensure that there is peace in the nation, especially as we find ourselves in the year of election.
Of late, to me, I don't see it to be more distant in the country, because it seems like they are afraid of political intimidation. When they come out to say something, let's say NDC is doing something, and they come out to say, oh, this what you people are doing is not good or something, and people from the NDC side will attack when they go to the NDC. Then people from NDC will attack to tag them as NDC. So because of that, when something is happening, to me, I see that they are unable to come out to complain or caution people about that. I think they should be more active. They should be more active than what they are doing now. In terms of talking to people, making people understand that we are one. There's no room for fighting over election or something that way. Yeah.
This vox pop makes me think that the ordinary Ghanaian doesn't care about what the parties will do. They will just go about their normal business. But but also meaning that the public tend to recognize your work because you tend to get a lot more of the attention based on what you do.
Yeah.
How do you hope to deepen that further?
Well, first of all, we have our own challenges. I mean, resource-wise, I've just talked about the fact that we have decentralized. We're supposed to go down to the districts. But even at the regions now, there's not a single regional peace council that has a vehicle. Not a single. Even at the quarters, there's only, what you have, the executive secretary's car and one that is broken down. So we're all using our own resources in terms of what we're doing. So we have limited resources. I quite agree with them that we could do more, but you can only do what your resources will permit you to do, and we will try within the limited resources that we have to do the best that we can. Thanks be to UNDP. Recently, the USAID has also come in, and so we have been able to line up these programs. These are program funding. They are funds that have come in for us to be able to do these programs, and we hope that,
are they in millions of dollars, or you've not
millions of dollars?
Oh.
I mean, the the USAID has given a substantial sum of money, but
okay.
it's
to run your activities.
To the activities. But when you talk like this, it's not that the money is being put into your coffers. I mean, it's when you plan, with what you justify, and then they will pay for that.
Sure.
So you don't have that. But we will do the little that we can. The mandate allows us to raise peace funds, and we hope that people who want us to do more when it comes to it will, contribute towards the peace fund so that the National Peace Council will be able to do what is expected of them. In terms of being politically biased, I want to plead with the public that, the public should understand that the membership of the National Peace Council couldn't be politically biased. There's no way that is possible, because the membership is drawn from various religious and traditional institutions and civil society, and the government has no hand in terms of the selection apart from doing due diligence on the people who are elected. As a chairman of the National Peace Council, I wasn't, I was not, so to speak, handpicked by the government to be a chairman. You cannot do that. It is the body, the 13-member body, that needs to elect one of them to be the chairman, and the president has to appoint that person. He cannot say, I will not appoint him, by the act.
Well, good. You have your reputation preceding you, so I guess it's not in doubt. I have to say that.
Thank you.
But we have a current society where there's that subtle culture of fear of perhaps voicing out, even though, of course, we have a plural media, so to speak, in which if people have difficulty, sometimes they are not able to say because of the way people tag. Yes. You have even been tagged, whether you're NPP or you're NDC or this or that.
Yes.
And even you have even been accused that sometimes you hold back.
Yes.
Because you feel that you could be accused here and there, etc. How do we keep that?
Well, I think that there is a saying in our country. Let me tell you that the people who make up the National Peace Council, these are highly respectable people in society, eminent people. And there is a saying in Ghana that an elderly person sometimes behaves like, I have heard, but I have not heard. Opanin due mate mante. It's a wise saying that our elders have. You don't just jump into situations all of a sudden. Sometimes we hear of issues. People expect us to, as soon as you hear of that, come up and say this. You do investigations. And sometimes after you have listened to both sides and done your investigation, you realize that the best way to do it is not to go public. And sometimes it may be necessary to do things on the quiet. And peace work is more of, underground work than simply coming up. You open channels so that it will be possible for you to have access to people and talk to them. I call people not only when there are problems, but I have called people in positions, in opposition and those in governments, and I have said to them, how are you? How are things going? Let us pray. I wish that this and that. So that when I need them and they see me calling, they will open up. And so it's tactical. And I want to plead with Ghanaians to pray with us, not to put too much pressure. We will do the best that we can as Peace Council to ensure that, you know, we work with other institutions that are committed to peace, like your house, for instance. What you have done today is, for me, one of the things that we expect all the media houses to be doing. The others are doing that anyway.
Okay. Now we have to end our discussions and one or two other questions.
Yes.
Nang Pandori, Bunkrugu, conflict situations here and there in our country. What would you say to?
It is a very difficult situation. Some of these the problems that you have there have been there for years.
They're historical.
They are historical.
Really?
Some of them, you know, and they are rooted in traditions and all that. So in trying to deal with it, it takes time.
Do I get the understanding these conflicts are now beyond the National Peace
Council?
The
regional peace councils are working hard. Let me tell you that the whole idea of the National Peace Council came as a result of concern for things that were happening in the north. It was born out of concern for that. So a lot of work is being done there on the quiet. You know that when it comes to traditional matters like the Dabon issue, Santehene is dealing with it. We are in touch. You know, there's been a time that I have sat in there just listening to the wisdom of the elderly people in dealing with this, because traditional matters, if you are handling them, you have to be very, 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 very careful. The protocols are not as simple as some of us look at it.
I guess the word is tact. You have to be tactful.
You got to be tactful in dealing with these issues.
Well, so your last message to the entire voting public, especially as we're going to this very election, it's very critical for us, very, very critical for us.
I think I will humbly plead with all Ghanaians that, you know, as I've always done, we have only one country. And even if you have a dual citizen, Ghana is still one of those, you know, countries that you belong to. Whether or not this country is going to go the peaceful way depends upon me, depends upon you, depends upon the political parties, depends upon all of us. I would say let us choose peace. Violence is too expensive for us to hold on to. And so I will agree with the group of people who are our partners now, campaigning and saying that it is the thumb and not the fist. I think it is important that we do that.
Okay, it is the thumb and not the fist. It is the thumb and not the fist. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we've had in the studio the most Reverend Professor Emmanuel Asante, and thanks for joining me. He's the chairman of the National Peace Council, one time the head of the Methodist Church here in our country. It's another 4 years. We know that they do this periodically within the period before the main elections, but their work gets intensified within the year of elections. We're just some few months away to the elections, but making sure that all the various stakeholders are in their right place, are in the right frame of mind, compose the right messages, and also prepare themselves very well will be the best recipe to avoiding all the challenges that usually are associated with elections. I guess it's our own way of contributing towards having a peaceful election come November 7, 2016. Thanks for joining me once again.
Thank you very much.
We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll be wrapping up the whole show for you.
Thank you.